Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the Apex Online Racing YouTube channel, where today we have our conclusion to Season 14 of the Project Cars 2 GT3 League, and it is going to be here with round 10 at Spa Francorchamps. We just got ourselves into a 10-minute practice session prior to the 90-minute race that we have here, and my name is Yorkie065, and also joining me in the commentary box as well for today's session is the man himself, King Kodiak.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. I am indeed here. Couldn't keep away, so here I am to see out the season. I chickened out of driving in this this evening's round, but it is here at the wonderful Spa Francorchamps. Anyone who's driven any kind of game in any kind of capacity will know this circuit. It's been around for a very long time. And 17 drivers join us for this evening's race. Now, it's going to be a 90-minute race, reverse grid order from the... Is it the championship order, or is it the finishing order from last time around? I've completely forgotten.
It is the championship order. Or
championship order.
Yeah.
So when this 10-minute practice session has elapsed, I'll be heading down to the driver's channel to read out who's going to be starting where. And we will have the formation lap done. Then the grand finale of the season will then take place.
Yep, and I'm very glad that you have joined me in the commentary box, because I do have well, it was a bit of a flu that I had towards the end of the holiday period, which is now kind of mostly cleared up, although it's still lingering around in the form of a cough. So it'll be great, or it will be great, yeah, to have you here in the commentary box to kind of help me along. I do apologise if I cough in your ear. I shall try and mute myself on the stream before we get through to that. But unfortunately for you, King Kodiak, you'll be getting the full brunt of all my coughing. But hopefully that will manage to stay away throughout the duration of the 90 minutes. It's unlikely, but we shall be doing our best. Of course, welcome to everybody in the live stream, and welcome to all those in the live chat. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to chuck them in throughout the duration of the race, and we shall be trying to answer any of your questions when we get a spare moment. But hopefully the action will be thick and fast with the reverse grid order that we're going to have. It's a 90-minute race, but also on top of that, something new that we haven't had here in the AOR GT3 League previously is the fact that this race is going to be a double points race. So there's a few positions in the championship which are still yet to be determined. Just seeing that ACR Nade, who is our Season 14 champion, is there in the live chat, and I can't see... Actually, no, he is in there. He's currently in P3, although he hasn't actually set a lap time as of yet. Excuse me, there he is. Yep, Nade is there. He's already been crowned the Season 14 champion, and he is 184 points clear of anyone else, and it's 50 points for a race win. So doing a quick bit of mathematics there, the maximum number of points you can get in today's race is 101. 50 points for a race win, obviously double that because of the double points, and then a single point for the fastest lap of the race. And yeah, he's basically well out the running. However, Strongest Avenger and Hunzolti are in a battle for second position. There's just 11 points between those two. There is Strongest Avenger in the Mercedes AMG GT3, and Hunzolti circulating around the circuit in the yellow and black Lamborghini that's just there in the foreground of the picture, just going through the Bruxelles hairpin of turn 10. So be interesting to see how that fight unfolds. Also got As Turbo as well in that green Grasser Racing Lamborghini. There he is, just behind WMDR Martin, who we were watching very momentarily. He's there in fourth position, just 26 points behind Hunzolti, so it's fairly close at the top. And actually JK16 as well, who is here in the session. There he is in that white liveried Black Falcon Mercedes-AMG. He is in 5th position as well, and also in pretty close proximity. And then in P6 in the current championship standings is Chloe, who cannot be made or cannot make it here for this race, unfortunately. So Chloe is going to miss out on that one, and on this one, shall I say, and will finish no better than 6th position. But it's good to see a nice mix of cars, and it looks like Alan has switched to the BMW M6 and has picked up a pretty cool livery with the black there, with a kind of almost sort of technical sort of fractal pattern on it, with a few various different little blobs of colour as well. 17,
as mentioned, is going to be with us this very evening. Chloe, our very dominant winner from the previous round at Algarve, is not one of them. I'm very glad you've said how to say Zolty's name, because I was looking at that thinking, how the hell am I going to say that?
Yeah.
So glad you've answered that one for me. Times beginning to come in. These are, of course, practice times. They're not qualifying times, so these are essentially, I'll say worthless, but they don't influence where they're going to start in the running order for the race to come. So let's have a quick rundown of who we have got. So Alan in the fractal liveried BMW, currently at the top of the list. Then it is Zolty in that black and yellow Lamborghini 219.0. Couple of tens off of that time is AS Turbo in the bright green Lamborghini. WMDR Martin also sporting the Lambo, currently 4th. Then it is Strongest Avenger in the currently lead Mercedes with a 220.4. Then Tony Clifton in the, I think, Soul Audi that is in the field this evening with a 220.9. Nida in the bright white Merc, currently in the 7th position. Then it is a name I definitely don't recognize.
Ritfaz Pudjats.
Indeed, in the lemon-scented Merc. Then it is Andrex, who is out there somewhere. He's once again in the Nissan. Brave man. Punt in the technicolored Lamborghini. It's coming around to the final chicane. You have the improvements on his time of 223.5. Then 7th Phoenix in the McLaren. I believe he was the sole McLaren runner last time out. 223.8. Storm is out there as well. There he is in the black and yellow Merc. Currently in 12th position with a fairly unrepresentative 237.6. The champion himself, Nade, is yet to get a time on the board in the blue Merc. JK16, as previously mentioned, also in the white Mercedes. No time on the board. Trip is running the black and orange Lamborghini. Piff Paff Po. It's 2 McLarens out there. He is sporting the second one. And Matt Cooley in that really unusual livery Merc. I haven't actually seen that before, I don't think.
It's a pretty cool one. It's from one of the 24-hour races that is done by Hankook, which makes me think that it would be the Dubai 24 hours, which they have at the start of the season. But yeah, it's quite a cool livery. I think it's like an image of kind of like almost like a forest sort of scene with a whole load of paint swirls and stuff on it. It's pretty cool.
Indeed. So just less than a minute to go then for this practice session to come to an end. If this is indicative of anything, then Alan is in really good form in the Soul BMW. Now I did try the Beamer and I span pretty easily. If I were to run in this particular race, I would have actually been in the Lamborghini. I found that one the most stable, and the best I could manage was 823.8. So I was destined for the back of the grid once again.
Yeah, the M6, its loose default setup is not a good one. It is very much fitting to the name that it was given. It's very loose. It's very slippery. Whereas the stable setup works a lot better on the M6. Generally tend to lean towards that anyway. And actually, the stable setup, default, and also the general handling characteristics of the M6 really does suit this Spa Francorchamps circuit with the kind of the medium to high speed sweeping corners. So that M6 could be a pretty good and quick car to watch out for, and I know that Alan has been hunting down a number of TT leaderboards recently in that car as well, and kind of topping and breaking records there, so he will certainly be one to keep an eye on coming through the field, although I imagine he'll be starting somewhere near the front, considering he's changed cars, which usually means that he's given up all his points.
I'm just looking at Alan will be starting in 10th position.
Ah, okay.
Well, he's 10th on the list. Now, there's a few people that aren't with us. Mr. Van Ommen, for instance, isn't with us, so he will end up starting a bit higher than that.
Yep.
But of the list of 30 that I've got given here, he would have been number 10. So he'll be starting relatively close to the front.
Yeah, so we'll probably see him kind of get near the front fairly quickly, I would have thought, and yeah, be interesting to see how he'll progress throughout this race, and obviously a number of other drivers as well. We do still have that battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th position in the championship, which has been undecided thus far. There are also a number of other people who will be battling for championship places as well in this race, but that 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th will be the main one to watch out for. That'll be between Strongest Avenger, Hans Ulti, AS Turbo and JK16. So we'll try and keep an eye on those throughout the duration of the race. It's King Kodiak who is in control of the cameras this time round, as he is running director, and obviously I'm providing the live stream, and therefore it makes sense for me to be broadcaster. But here we go, progressing from the practice session onto the race. These are obviously all just kind of provisional times. They don't mean anything due to the reverse grid order, but you can see 17 drivers there, all set and ready to go for the final round of Season 14 here in the Apex Online Racing GT3 Project Cars 2 League.
Right, I'm going to read out the positions to our drivers once this 2-minute cool-down period has elapsed, so I shall be back once that grid has been decided.
Cool, so King Kodiak has just gone and rushed off out the door, as he said, and he's going to go get those guys all sorted, organised and in order. And as he mentioned, we've just got this 2-minute cool-down period, or interim period, shall I say, where the drivers just get an opportunity to double check that they've got the correct setup applied to the car for the race, and they also have the correct pit strategy set up for the race as well, because it'll be a 90-minute race. It is a mandatory pit stop which the guys will have to serve. They don't necessarily have to service the car in any way, so they don't have to change tyres or they don't have to put fuel in, but judging by some of the chat from some of the drivers in the Discord in the lead up and prior hours to this race, that they were going to be needing to make a pit stop, and a few of them potentially taking some fuel on board. So we'll be seeing that come into play. Usually what a number of the drivers often do is excuse me, is in the standard 1-hour race is basically try and make or clear their mandatory pit stop as early as possible to get themselves into clearer air, and therefore try and work the strategy, and rather than having to actually pass people physically on track. It's mainly for those who kind of get caught up behind someone else when relatively near to the front, and the other person is doing a pretty good job of defending that position. But obviously, where this is a 90-minute race and not the usual 1 hour, drivers have got a little bit more time, and therefore if they do need to take on fuel, they may need to wait for the pit window to kind of somewhat open before they can actually try and employ a similar strategy. So you're just seeing all the drivers moving over to the sides of the circuit to allow those who are starting at the front of the grid to basically cycle on through and pass everyone else. So we should start to see some cars sneak on through. There goes Andrex in the Nissan GTR GT3 car, and is now moving and rolling underway, as we can see. There's King Kodiak, who's reading out all the positions for all the drivers and telling them where they should be forming up in terms of their overall grid spot. So this leads us onto the manual formation lap that we'll be doing here, which will be at a reduced speed. The usually tends to be 80 miles per hour and 120 kilometers an hour for the main formation lap, and once they get to a formation zone, which is actually the entry to Blanchimont, they'll reduce their speed down to 80 kilometers an hour and 50 miles an hour, where they'll form up into their 2x2 formation like they were on the grid, form those two trains, and get ready to go racing from there. And the acceleration zone, which will be on the start-finish grid, basically begins at the end of the curbing coming out of the bus stop chicane, and obviously finishes on the start-finish line. At any point between those two defined positions, the leader of the two trains will be able to put his foot down, and that will signify the start of the race. And they can't jump or fake the start. They can't accelerate and then like back off again and then accelerate and kind of fake it. They have to go the first time that they put their foot down. That's obviously the guys starting in P1 and P2, P3, P4, so on and so forth. All the other drivers have to basically try and react to the leader going. So usually your best position is to be obviously P1, but the second best position to be is actually in P3, because you have a much better vision and view of P1 than you do when starting kind of alongside in P2. So just getting the last few drivers now coming through to form up towards the back of the grid. Nade is the driver who's going to be starting from the very back, and I'm sure we'll find King Kodiak coming back into the commentary box sometime soon. Once he does, I'll ask him for the speedo and also the track map, that way we can see where everyone else is. Excuse me. Whilst they're going around the circuit, but it seems like Ritvaz Pudjat is going to be starting from the very front of the field. There he is. Andrex in second position in that Nissan GTR. Alan is going to be starting in third place in the BMW M6, so he's going to be pretty close and near the front. Then we've got Tony Clifton in the... Oh dear, that's...
someone's...
Yeah.
That's Neela.
Yeah, indeed, that is Nyla, who's just gone and spun off. I saw it as well, exactly the same time as you, which means that he basically forfeits his starting position and has to start from the very back of the grid. He is going the wrong way, though. And
I suspect he's had a problem of some description, because he chose a very long time to spin that round.
Well, he's... Yeah, okay, no, he is still in there. I was wondering if he was potentially going to try and get all the way back to the pits going the opposite direction, but you probably would have got disqualified doing that. So, yeah, Nyla's going to be starting from the back of the grid and also with damage as well. So that's very much compromised his start to this 90-minute race. But, yeah, the drivers do have to be quite careful with their tyre warming and making sure that they don't actually spin off the circuit, because, as I was saying, it does forfeit their position and after you rejoin the track at the back of the pack at the end of the train. So
yeah, I was just about to say, is he going to overtake off track? That's going to earn him penalties though, doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be ordered to go back. I mean, he'll end up at the back towards the back of the grid anyway, but yeah, that's not the start Nida would have wanted. What he's trying to do is work his way through the pack to get back to the pits, to get the repairs done before the pack then repasses him to start the race. That's why he's storming his way through. But it does look like, oops, and that was that wasn't quite paying attention. It was only Clifton, I think, in the Audi that caught him out slightly there. Yeah,
if he does pick up any penalties, if he screenshots them and takes them to the stewards afterwards, they'll take those penalties away. I imagine there'll be 30-second time penalties if he does pick up any. But yeah, as you can see, racing ahead to get that damage fixed and sorted, whilst everyone up is forming into that 2x2 formation, as we mentioned earlier. So the field of GT3 cars reducing their speed down. All the sound turns into a nice low revving burble. And fantastic. There is the speedo and also the track map that we were looking for. We're currently just watching Andrex. He's going to be starting from second position in the Mighty Godzilla. Be interesting to see how that unfolds, but Tony Clifton in a slightly better spot, starting behind, is going to have a slightly better view here in the sunrise at Spa Francorchamps of Belgium to see when Ritvaars puts the foot down. There is a bit of a gap to P6 7 Phoenix. He hasn't gone yet, but now he has. We're away racing for the final round here of season 14. Tony Clifton having a little bit of a look to the inside of Andrex, but that isn't going to go into work. He may be able to get the position off of Alan, and indeed he does, as the field of cars filter their way through turn 1, and it looks like that Nyla has come out just at the back of the pack as we're picking up Nade in 15th position, who's right there underneath the rear wing of Strongest Avenger as we're coming through. Arouge now up through Radion. Guys just being quite patient and quite cautious, finding that's pretty much single file going through those sequence of corners as Tony Clifton is now up into P2 ahead of Andrex. Here comes Alan as well, looking down the inside. Is he going to go for the move on both drivers? Tony Clifton shutting the door on his face as we're coming into the chicane there. We did see one car just in the background going off across the runoff area as Matt Cooley, and he's rejoined back into 5th position in that very brightly and distinct coloured livery on that Mercedes AMG.
Andrex now down to 4th in that Nissan. It started well, but he's may well struggle to keep up with the pace of those ahead of him. 7th Phoenix, and the McLaren's got a bit of a gap forward, but just JK17 right on his case, going for the inside manoeuvre around Pouon. This is a corner I just could not get right, no matter how many times I tried to take the line, and JK17's got the manoeuvre done and is now slotted up into 6th position. And WMDR Martin looks interested in making the McLaren's day that little bit worse. Has a look on the inside of the final chicane, doesn't quite get it done. Need to be a bit closer than that if you're going to try and make a move there. Indeed, it's Ritvaars Pujats is keeping hold of the lead at the moment. Clifton 2, then Alan in 3rd position, Andrex 4, Matt Cooley 5, JK16 in 6th position, and 7th Phoenix in 7th. I wonder if he might stay there because of his namesake. Oh, and then they will start to get interested down on the nose of the BMW. Merc leads Audi. Oh, it's so easy to do. The tail just gets a little bit quickly on the exit of Blanchimont. And again, there's the Audi of Clifton getting a little bit out of hand coming into that final chicane. It's a lot easier to do than you might think it is. You're absolutely storming it down through the fastest part of the circuit with an absolute belly full of fuel, and it's very easy for that to go horribly wrong at the chicane. Neela is back onto the tail of the field then. Where's our champion? Nade is up to 11th, and he's doing an outside manoeuvre on Piff Paff Poe. The McLaren just demoted to 11th just as we cut to him, as Nade then looks at the battle that's 7th Phoenix and who's that? That's Strongest Avenger. Is now the McLaren down another couple of positions. Oh, looks like Clifton and Alan are having a scrap then as we come up to Lake On once again. The BMW now up into 2nd position. It does look like Tony Clifton's had to concede that one. There's JK16 still chasing the Nissan. Oh, the tail of that Nissan just did not want to behave itself. It never does in that car. It is exceedingly skittish. So again, admire Andrex for taking that one for a spin. We'll see if that particular sentence comes true later on.
Yeah, hopefully it won't go for the full spin, but we've already got a number of drivers making up a whole bunch of positions. As we can see, Nade now up into 10th position, potentially getting 9th from 7th Phoenix. It looks like it's only going to be a matter of time, and with an exit like that coming out of turn 11, he's going to have the inside line coming into Pouon, and in fact he's going to be able to retake the racing line before getting to the entrance of Pouon, and does indeed slot himself up into P9. Hunzolti following on through just as we're coming out the exit of Pouon there. And a little bit further up, one of the main men on the move was JK, as he is now sliding up past Andrex down the inside as we're coming into Stavilo there. Now coming out through Curb Porphyry and out the exit P16, turn 16. But yeah, JK now up into 4th position, otherwise starting from further back down through the field. But Andrex looking to the outside as we're coming in towards Blanchimont. JK just about manages to cover him off, whilst giving just about, well, slightly less than the Nissan GTR's width on the outside there, but JK doing a nice fair job at the moment. He's now got a little bit of a gap to Tony Clifton, about a second and a half or so to P3 up in front, as we're watching Alan go down the inside of Ritvars Pudjats into turn 1. Looks like he's been able to get the move done and make it stick, and indeed he has. So Alan now in that BMW M6 with the clear air. Let's see what kind of pace that he's got. As we saw from the practice session, he was the fastest out of all the drivers to really set a time, but obviously the looming question of that is how relevant was that time? Is it actually representative of their true race pace, or were a couple of drivers just taking it easy? But either way, it looks like Ritvars Pudjats is trying to pick up the slipstream of Alan coming on the run down towards the Lecombe chicane, but isn't going to be close enough to make a move. Tony Clifton still sat there lurking in P3, watching the two drivers battle up ahead.
Everybody's settling into their rhythms now. Long way to go. It's a 40-lap race that we are facing. -1 for the parade lap that we have done already. There is Martin on the back, strongest Avenger. JK16, the first to get a penalty on board, a single second. I imagine that this race may well incur a few more penalties than that throughout the board. Zolty and Nade, the champion and the champion-elect, streaming on down towards Puhan once again. Lamborghini keeping the Mercedes fairly for close company. Putting a little bit on his own there. He's managed to find some space, 3.2 or so between himself and Zolty, and about 1.8 between himself and 7 Phoenix, the orange McLaren behind. AS Turbo has got a lot of company back there in 13th position, so Piff Paff Bo in the McLaren with Trip in the Lambo, Storm in the Mercedes, and Neela looks like he's done another trouble as he is 5 seconds off the back. He was right with them about a lap or so ago, but has had another bit of trouble. So it's not his start not gone well. Of course, meeting the barrier before the race had even begun didn't start his race off well. But long way to go. Oh, that's Clifton! That's Clifton's got the braking for the chicane all wrong. We've seen him a couple of times get that Audi very crossed up, and it has really bitten him. He's lost their position to JK16.
Yep, indeed he has. Just going too deep there, potentially trying to make the move on Hans Zolty in front, but I did also see that JK was fairly close in terms of the gap relative between the two of them. So I think JK may have just been applying a little bit of pressure, and Tony Clifton potentially getting a little bit distracted. Here we see Strongest Avenger hunting down Matt Cooley. This is a battle for 6th position, but we've got Andrex in that big Nissan GTR up in front. Doesn't look like he's had quite the cleanest of runs going up through Eau Rouge and Radion. And Matt Cooley and also Strongest Avenger closing up on them, but Strongest Avenger with the double slipstream is getting the slingshot coming down into the Lecombe chicane. Makes the move down the inside on Matt Cooley and gets himself now up into 6th position. Good work by him. And Andrex is his next victim to be lined up, but could prove to be a little bit more difficult as Andrex is getting the time, trying to find and get a handle on that Nissan GTR Nade. We can see right up on the back underneath the rear wing of Martin, who we've seen throughout the season as a very good and hard defensive driver. Certainly can place his car pretty well and keep some of the faster guys behind. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for Nade to find his way through, but this could potentially be it, with Martin running out a little bit wide there through the mid corner of Puon, and Nade now on the outside as we're coming into Campus turn 13 and 14. He's trying to do it around the outside of the right hand. He's going to have the inside for the left. Hans Zolty also trying to cash in on this as well. Martin is going to be there on the inside coming into Stavelo, and Nade manages to slip through, but Hans Zolty doesn't and has to slot in behind. So it's going to be a Mercedes AMG GT3 leading the two Lamborghini Hurricanes.
Oh, that got a little bit close. Up front, Ritvars is now down into 3rd position. JK16 has made his way past the lemon-scented Merc. All the while, Alan has been really storming away. He's got the fastest lap on the board with a 2:18. 2:18.4 last time around, or 2:18.8 is the lap he's just done, but no one is getting into that kind of time frame. We've got, most people are still fighting, others But from what I can see, Alan is the only one to dip into the 218s with the M6, so he's doing a great job there. And that battle that Clifton is still at the lead of is beginning to disperse a bit. However, it does have Zolti and Nade catching up to it, although Zolti has yet to get past Nade. Oh, a pitter. That's very, very early. So Piff Paff Po's had a problem of some description. Car looks all right. Plenty of fuel on board.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks perfectly fine to me. I can't see any sign of damage, so it could be just doing the early mandatory pit stop, getting himself some clear air and just focusing on lap times rather than actually trying to physically battle on track, unlike these two between Zolti and WMDR Martin. Matt Cooley's gone and spun in that fantastic liveried Mercedes AMG. He's managed to keep it running. Not too sure if he managed to keep it out of the wall though, but he's now dropped down into 13th position by the time he's recovered back onto track, ahead of Storm. Was he off again? No.
No,
it was the camera just being a little bit
I was trying to get a camera.
Yeah.
So the camera kept pointing the wrong way. So I was trying to get a decent camera on Matt there. But yeah, that's again, in my practices, I spun a lot of times just trying to put a little bit too much power down on the exit of Lake Com. I think it's really, really easy to do. It didn't matter what I threw through there. It was very easy just to give that little bit, lose that little bit of traction on the exit of Lake Com and off into the wall. For Matt Cooley, a great shame. Wow, Piff Paff Po is only just coming out of the pits now. So that's more than just a tank top-up he's had. So he's quite some... He's a minute behind Neela now. Trip and Storm still fairly close together. AS Turbo, WMDR Martin are still having a scrap there for 10th. Nade is now caught up with Andrex. Oh, you saw how the blue Merc got very, very lively. Coming through Puon again, that'll be a mixture of kind of lack of downforce and a lot of right foot. The two up front, Alan and JK16, lapping within 0.02 of a second of each other. I think Andrex is letting Nade go there. He's realizing he's not likely to keep Nade behind him. Andrex, a wise old fighter in the GT3 arena, so he's not wanting to really get involved in that one. What's Clifton up to? He's remaining about 7/10 behind Strongest Avenger. We've seen that that Audi gets a little bit squirrely sometimes, so he's hanging on to the back of the green Mercedes. But now the field should settle down into its rhythm. Although we do still have some packs fairly close together, but they are spreading out lap on lap. AS Turbo, WMDR Martin's had troubles on way. He's lost a lot of time. He's a 227 last time around, whereas everybody else is 219s, 220s. So Martin's had a spin or some such, made a mistake somewhere. Look at Matt Cooley's time, 236, and we found him buried in the wall. Trip and Storm actually just catching to the back of the tree liveried Merc that Matt Cooley's running.
It's a difficult one to describe, isn't it?
It is a very unusual one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what description to put to that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Nade is actually getting... Well, there, you just saw Tony Clifton at the top of the shot, so Nade is really not hanging around. He's almost breaking into the 218s himself. But with the very good pace we've seen from those up front, he's still about 12 seconds off of the lead pace of the motor. But when he breaks free of the traffic, that's when we'll really see him deploy everything under his right foot.
Yep, almost certainly. He'll be looking for a good smooth run through Blanchimont there, which it looks like he manages to get. It'll be interesting to see how much he closes up under the braking onto the back of Tony Clifton, who manages to nail his marks this time round. Hooks up the apexes, although it was a little bit wide on the exit, and Nade has gone and gained a few tenths of a second just through that final bus stop chicane itself. At the moment it seems like Alan, fastest man on the circuit on the previous lap, as Nade 2:19.7. There he is, leading out at the head of the field. Gap of 4.5 seconds to JK behind, and Nade has now managed to actually get the drive coming off of La Source Hairpin, and has got himself now up into 5th position. It's demoted Tony Clifton down into 5th place. It seems like Strongest Avenger, I believe, is in 4th, and indeed he is. Oh, Martin has managed to lose, or shall I say, AS Turbo has managed to gain the position on WMDR Martin. So those two drivers have now swapped places as well. And Tripp here at the back of this 3-car train, led by Matt Cooley. Storm is there in the middle. You can see we're actually closing up onto the 2 drivers up in front, as we had a slightly better run, but it seems like Matt Cooley is going to be slow coming down along this Kemmel Straight. He may actually lose 2 positions here with Tripp trying to make the move down the inside. He's going to be on the outside coming into the left of the chicane, and indeed Tripp wasn't able to get through as Matt Cooley holds on to that 14th position, but he did lose the position to Storm, who had the run going down the long back straight at the top of the hill, and managed to make the move before they got to the braking zone. And lap 8 at the moment, 7th racing lap. The drive's still circulating around, and we've got a couple of penalties up on the board as well. JK, we know, had 1 second, it's now 2-second penalty. But Hunzolti and WMDR Martin now also have a 1-second penalty to their name. And what was the difference between JK and Hunzolti? It's a total of 30 points. Nope, 40 points, sorry, between the 2 of them coming here into this round. And I think at the moment it's not going to be enough for JK to jump Hunzolti in the championship standings. I don't think.
I think Matt Cooley has got damage or trouble of some description, as Tripp has pretty much mugged Matt there, coming out of Curve Portray before they get to Blanchimont. Oh, someone's binned it, I think. I heard someone revving up their engine. Sounds like one of the Mercs has had trouble around here, or just because they go very slowly through there anyway. It sounded like one of the Mercs spun up his wheels. No, it could have been 7th Phoenix. No, his lap time is not too disastrous, so could have just been caught out there. Now we're starting to see some representative lap times from Nade, and 19.1 on the board. No one anywhere near that last time around. Even Alan up front, there was a 19.9. Looks like Strongest Avenger has reeled in Ritvar's Pujats, so that'll be a battle for 3rd position beginning to brew. And Zolti has caught up with Andrex as well, so some potential battles beginning to form. We'll just have to keep an eye on them, as Pun and AS Turbo are getting close together. AS Turbo took 2 seconds out of Pun last time around. The awesome 19.5 last time around. So still some amazing lap times coming up, even though the cars are still very, very heavy.
Yep, certainly are. And we are also starting to come in towards the daylight hours as well. The race did start at 6 AM in game time, so the sun is rising, and it will heat up the track temperature, and it will get a little bit quicker. And it's actually in and around this sort of time that the track usually tends to be at its quickest, otherwise known as the golden hour, where the ambient temperature is nice and cool, which makes the engines run very nice and rich and produce quite a bit of power. Also, the track temperature is starting to slowly creep up, as indeed Storm back in the rear end of the car coming into turn 13 there, which I don't think is the quickest way to do it. It's certainly the most impressive, but he's done well to hold on to that there. But I think that's allowed Tripp to close up by just a few car lengths, get a little bit closer as they're coming down along this back section down towards Blanchimont. They could potentially come up to a sort of position where Tripp would be looking to try and make the move at some point fairly soon. But we've picked up Nade, who's closing up onto the back of Strongest Avenger. Strongest Avenger currently sat in P2 at the moment in the championship. If the race was to finish the way it is now, Strongest Avenger will come away with 2nd place. Hunzolti, I believe, in 3rd.
Zolti is he's managed to get past Andrex. So he's demoted the Nissan down to 8th position now. And to get onto the Camel Straight, his next target is going to be Clifton. Oh, Nade having a look. That's capitalizing on a mistake there from Strongest Avenger.
Oh, he's clipped him.
Oh, no. Round went the green Merc. He did hit the wall quite hard. That camera's not doing us any favors. Oh, that car does not look like it wants to steer particularly straight. And he's already gone deep into the next turn. So there goes Clifton through into 5th position. Oh, he did his best to try and hang on to that, but oh dear, that one may see the stewards, but it may be very academic. Well, certainly academic as far as Nate's concerned. He can't be demoted from the championship position, but you know, Strongest Avenger still had championship positions to try and hold on to. We'll see what he does. The lights are going, but it doesn't look like that car wants to steer straight, and he did look. Oh dear, yeah, he is really struggling to get that car to behave, and he's still got a sector to do before he can get that one back to the pit lane.
Yeah, it looked like Nate was just trying to sweep around the outside, and I think the 2 lines that the 2 drivers were taking in through that turn 9 just meant that they met kind of there in the middle. I think Nate probably could have given Strongest Avenger just a little bit more room, considering the fact that Strongest Avenger is battling for 2nd position in the championship, and Nate has already made claim to his win, and therefore isn't going to affect him. But I guess Strongest Avenger's saving grace here in this race is the fact that it's so long. Jesus Christ, those 2 are very far out wide. That's not the usual line going through Blanchimont. 2 of them must have gone in side by side going into there. But yeah, very much making use of the runoff area. But yeah, as I was saying, Strongest Avenger, his saving grace is the fact that the race is going to be so long. It's going to be 90 minutes. He's still got 30 laps of the race to go, so he can get in, get that car repaired, and if he can keep basically putting in the pace that he's been showing throughout the season, should be able to see him recovering back up into a somewhat decent result. But here we can see Nade closing up onto the back of Ritbaz Pudjats as they're approaching the column chicane, as Matt Cooley is also into the pit lane, and it looks like Nade has managed to get the position. He's now up into 3rd.
Yeah, the standard slipstream maneuver coming into Les Combes for Nade then, so that's going to give him a clear run. He's been chipping away at that gap to leader lap on lap on lap, despite the fact that he's been working his way through traffic. So a 19.2 for the champion last time around. There's the BMW with a 2.2 second lead over JK16. Do we see the Merc? There he is coming into the shot. That's what 2 seconds looks like in these GT3 cars. The Nade now just has the opportunity to absolutely hone it until he catches up with the pack. He's already put 1.8 seconds between himself and the Lemon Mercedes behind. Clifton and Zolti are still pretty close together for what is now 5th position. Andre's a little bit on his own, just saw at the top of the chart. Pananeas Turbo still in their little duo for 8th position. WNBR Martin, there he is. About 3 seconds to close in to join in that particular fight. 7th Phoenix we saw get demoted a few positions earlier on. He's been chased by Storm. I love the fact that I'm looking at Mercedes and all I can hear is McLaren. It'd be one loud boys. So Cooley is back on the road. Oh dear. And I then commentator curse him by staring at him.
Yep. Yeah, Strongest Avenger currently there in 13th position. He's back out on circuit as well. About 5 seconds off the back of Storm. So it's not all doom and gloom for him now. He must have got that damage repaired fairly quickly, or chose not to repair it, because that was actually a really quick pit stop, considering he's now only 40 seconds off the back of Alan. So he's only lost about half a minute or so, but nonetheless he'll be pushing on and obviously trying to recover. A number of drivers in front of him are yet to make their mandatory pit stop. So okay, interesting. He's now coming into the pit lane, so I think it may have been a case that he didn't actually get the damage repaired, or he didn't service the car in the way that he wanted to.
Yeah, I reckon he took the chance to not get the damage repaired, but you just saw that car just didn't even want to behave itself, at any stage, so he's opted not to go for that. We have lost one. We have started with 17. We are down to 16, and I don't know who it is we have lost from the race. I thought it was Neela to start with, but he's still going.
It's not Piff Paff Poe, 7 Phoenix.
Nope.
Those two are still going as well.
I'm not entirely sure. I was never very good when I was a regular commentator for the GT3 League at identifying which guy has gone.
It's Trip.
Oh,
he's just popped up
no.
in the live stream chat as well, with a big no.
Oh dear.
And yeah, he was in a pretty good battle, I believe, with Storm ENT as well at one point. So yeah, it's very unfortunate to see that one happen.
Turbo still keeping Pun company, and Strongest Avengers out again. A very short stop.
There might have just been enough time to get the front of the car repaired.
He's taking no fuel either, so that'll also help keep the pit stop length down. Everybody else now fairly spread apart, and now we're seeing the 218s come on the board from Nade. So he hasn't closed that gap down between himself and JK too much, but it is still slowly coming down. Another 310s that time around between himself and JK16, who in turn has closed in about half a second on Alan. There is the BMW just going through Eau Rouge. Up and over Radion. AS Turbo is really keeping the pressure on Pun. So again, it's as a driver, as an experienced endurance driver, Yorkie, I guess in a position like this, will AS Turbo look to just sit there, do you think, or is he like to just try and get the move done when he can?
Well, my personal mindset at this point would be basically waiting for an opportunity where I've got a much better run to try and make the move. Coming up through Radion there, things were looking pretty good. I mean, AS Turbo is fairly close to the back of Pun there. Could be getting some slipstream, but as you can see, it's not enough. Although Pun did give a flash of the lights there. Not entirely sure what for, potentially. Yep, just letting AS Turbo to actually slip on up on through. So that's another alternative that you could have. You could have the other driver just let you go and not have to worry about making the move. But yeah, generally you kind of wait until you are right there, and there is a very much a clear opportunity to try and make the move past. I mean, it kind of entirely depends on the situation of the race, who it is that you're actually racing against, and how much you trust them. With these kind of reverse grid races, you do have to be a fair bit more aggressive at the start and try and work your way through the field as quickly as possible, especially if you want to try and keep up with some of the faster drivers. But in other most usual sort of cases, you kind of generally tend to play it a bit more patient and really wait for a prime opportunity rather than trying to create one.
Fair enough, as it looked like Piff Paff Poe is going to have some company. You'll see on the map that the leaders are really getting close to him. Whoa. Alan is really pushing on hard by the look of the BMW as he came out of the chicane. What's his last lap time? 19.3. Very nice. And Nade is it? I keep wanting to call him Nad. I've been trying to stop myself saying Nad. That is the abbreviation of his name, of course. But in comes Nade. So yeah, that's surely is a strategic pit stop. Are they only going to be stopping the once?
Yeah, they will only need to stop once. Yeah, they should be able to do an entire hour on a single fuel tank, and they're not going to have any issues with tyres. They'll probably be running the hard tyres. The in-game date is set to August, so the track temperature will be reasonably high. My God, that sky looks pretty. Just going through the bus stop chicane there. Storm hunting down 7 Phoenix, the battle for 11th place. Make that now 10th as they'll be passing Nade as he's trundling down the pit lane, coming out towards the pit exit down the inside in the hairpin. It's actually going to be very, very close to this battle as we're coming out of that and down the hill down towards Eau Rouge, and it looks like that Nade is going to just about slot in front of 7 Phoenix. We do know that the Mercedes does have the legs in a straight line over the McLaren driver, and Storm has had an absolutely brilliant run through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's now side by side with 7 Phoenix as they're coming down the Camel Straight. He's going to be on the outside coming towards the Le Combe chicane, but he's going to get the move done before they get to the braking zone, and Storm is going to take that 11th position and hold it, and is unfortunately not going to be able to get any better than that because Nade did manage to come out ahead and hold that run down through Rouge and Radion to keep 10th position after his pit stop.
Nicely done, nicely done. I did think that the McLaren wouldn't try and persuade Nade to give him the position, and indeed he didn't. As Turbo and Andrex now beginning to get a little close together, as Andrex doing what he can to. Andrex has always wanted to champion the lesser used cars, and does very, very well considering how difficult some of these cars are to handle. He's now being chased by AS Turbo, the green Lamborghini. He's going to be doing what he can to close that gap down. Another pitter. In comes JK16 to serve his stop.
I wonder if he is going to take fuel, because I think he has a little bit less than what Nade had when Nade made his stop. I seem to recall. Well, actually, yeah, Nade is actually going to take fuel on. That kind of answers that question then, because I thought he had about 70 odd litres. So JK, no doubt, will be taking on fuel. And I saw a couple of scuffs to the left-hand side of his car as well. That will be any kind of major damage, so it should be fine there and probably won't need to repair anything. But that's Turbo closing up onto the back of Andrex now, so dropping down the hill down towards turn 3, 4 and 5 of Rouge and Radion.
Salty is beginning to close in on Ridvars Pujats for second place. And there in the background is Tony Clifton, who's had for a while now. It's been a little bit on his own after some early scuffling, and JK16's come out right in front of Nade, so the two Mercs could well have a bit of a scrap. I think JK16 took on a little bit less fuel. Yes, he would have taken on a tiny bit less fuel, but I doubt Nade is going to be interested in staying right behind. But JK16's not going to make it easy for him. It's going to force him to go the long way around the first part of Le Combe, and he's had to back out of it. Oh, he's forced JK16 into the mistake. He couldn't slow down enough, and up into 9th for Nade. Goodness me. Oh. Good catch, sir. That was, yeah, that would have woken him up somewhat, as the tail got slightly more squiggly than he would like. A few more penalties on the board. 1 for Alan, 2 for Zolti, 2 for AS Turbo, 3 for Martin, 2 for JK16, 1 for Nina, Strongest Avenger, and 2 for Paf Po. So as I thought, the penalty count continues to rise, and Salty has already gotten past Ridvars Pujats for that second place. Andrex and AS Turbo have swapped round. The green Lamborghini now ahead of the Nissan, and JK16 and Nade, as we saw, have already swapped round. So the champion now has got 6 and a bit seconds to close into Martin, who Martin has yet to see the pit lane. So still quite a bit of racing and battling to conclude, and we're not even halfway through the race.
Yep, still going on strong. Alan's got a 20.5 second lead to Zolti in second position, so he's sitting pretty happy and pretty lonely out there at the head of the field. But the two drivers both yet to make their pit stops. It'll be interesting to see where they come out in relation to Nade and JK, as we saw those two coming out in very close proximity just a lap ago. I believe there was a fairly reasonable gap between Nade and JK, kind of in and around the time when they came to their pit stops, making their pit stops. Kind of thinking 3-4 seconds or so, but we saw that gap completely diminish, and subsequent change of positions as JK made a pretty valiant effort to try and hold on to the net second place. So that is the battle that they were fighting for, but yeah, just doesn't quite have an answer to Nade's pace on the previous lap. But obviously that does include JK's mistake of running deep here and then almost dropping the rear coming out the exit of the Le Combe chicane, but did a fantastic job to gather that back up. Noticing quite a lot of marble and dirt and debris kind of all round over the circuit. There's a couple of drivers running out wide, pulling the dirt and the gravel back onto the track, and the kind of the live track 3.0 system doing its thing. Obviously, that's going to affect the grip that is there on the surface, but drivers doing a reasonable job of holding onto their cars thus far.
Zolty's made a mistake. He's now behind. Yeah, he's lost 4 seconds this lap. He's now behind Ritvaars again. So he's binned it somewhere from, well, Lacon through Piron, around that kind of area. And now the Lamborghini's got to find his way past the Mercedes again. And Tony Clifton could well get interested in that particular fight. Is it damage? No, the car looks like it's behaving itself. It doesn't look like Zolty's hit anything. Does he come into the pits time around? He does not, so he is looking to continue on his merry way. Yeah, that's not what Zolty would have wanted. It wasn't the camera I was after either. So is... Ooh! I was a little bit... I wonder whether Ritvaars was either trying to let the Lambo go, or he's defending the inside line. It did actually look... I thought he was letting Zolty go, and I think Zolty thought the same thing. That could have gotten a little bit uncomfortable. Really, the easiest place to do it is up here. If Ritvaars is going to let Zolty go, it doesn't look like he's interested in doing that. Is he going to banzai to the inside? I think he thought about it, but it's a little bit too far back to make that move stick. Storm has brought his black and yellow Merc in. There's Turbo is getting close to the back of Tony Clifton, so 2 pairs of battles could well be forming there if Ritvaars is looking to try and keep Zolty behind. But still up front, Alan is putting in the impressive lap times with a 2:19.4, but Nade, of course, well into the 2:18s now. And again, bearing in mind he has refueled, so he's carby heavy again, and he's still getting the absolutely blistering lap times going. So he now chases down WMDR Martin.
Yeah, just a gap of just over a second between those two. He's gapped 3.5 seconds to JK behind. So just the pace that you highlighted with the mid 218, almost a 118, which would be absolutely crazy here at Spa. That would be well above F1 levels.
In GT3 cars, something would be slightly amiss.
Yeah, definitely. But Hans Zolty here underneath the rear wing of Ritvaars Pudjats. This is the battle for P2. As we mentioned, we've got the sun glare peeling off from the right-hand side of the picture, and Hans Zolty out very wide out there, coming in towards Blanchimont. That was a bit unusual. Not entirely sure if he was actually out there for real. And Hans Zolty going for the move around the outside. Does he get it slowed down enough though? Looks like he's just about managed to able to, and he's going to have the inside line coming out the exit of the final corner of the bus stop chicane, and has got himself back up into P2. Tony Clifton is now coming in and being brought into play as these two guys are kind of trading places, and he is just behind this pair, and also as Turbo there in the foreground in that green Lamborghini is also closing up on the guys in front, and will be looking to try and make it a 4-way fight between that 4 cars in the top 5.
Absolutely. He's been closing in on Clifton. He gained another 7/10 or so last time around. And it does look like Ritvaars is trying to stay in the tyre tracks of Zolty. Fair play. Oh, that's 2. I've commentated curse. Now don't hit the wall as he's trying to recover from there. Or at least 2. I've managed to commentate a curse. I swear I'll be banned from this commentary box at some point. So Ritvaars, unfortunately, dropping that one through Lacombe. ASO are now very, very close to Clifton as he looks to try and get into a potential podium position. As Alan is still just chewing up the miles on his own. Plenty of fuel, so he doesn't have to come in anytime soon. No one anywhere near him fore or aft, so he's not having to think strategically at this point, as we are fast approaching the halfway stage of this race. Pun is slowly but surely reading Andrix in. Andrix had a problem last time around with a 2:26 lap time on the board, so that Nissan has probably bitten him once or twice. Pun getting very deep into the Fanny chicane, which has really compromised his run through there. But still pressing on, still trying to keep the pace up as best he can in 7th position. So we haven't looked at for a while. There's Neela. Bear in mind he had that opening lap issue, or the parade lap spin. He's now on the back of 7 Phoenix. And some 222 on the board last time around, so has got some pace in the Merc. AS Turbo is still very close to Tony Clifton, so again keeping the Audi very much company.
Yep, pretty close between those two, and just know Strongest Avenger still down in 13th position. He is still circulating at the moment, but still got quite a long way to go if he wants to hold on to the P2 in the championship. But the battle for 3rd position at the moment is just about to engage. As Turbo is getting a much better run coming through Eau Rouge and Radion than Tony Clifton was. So come out the top there onto the Kemmel Straight. He's now going to get the slipstream as well. But does the Audi have the straight line speed over the Lamborghini, or is the slipstream going to be too strong to try and make a defence coming into the Lacombe chicane? And it looks like Tony Clifton is going to hold on to the position for now. As Turbo not going for the lunge, which is obviously the sensible option of the two, trying to open up turn 9 there as much as possible for himself. So we're now coming down into the Bruxelles hairpin of turn 10. Basically just get the car slowed down and just hug that curb on the inside all the way through. Now coming into the corner with no name, turn 11. I do believe it has actually picked up a name now, but with the track map that I'm actually using, it doesn't have a name to it.
Yeah, I've heard it's picked up a name, and I didn't like the name, so I still refer to it as No Name Corner, as Nade is closing in on Pun, who's still closing in on Andrax.
Yep, he's just going through Puon now, and yeah, kind of very much agree with you. Also call it No Name Corner. But yeah, they now come up to turns 13, 14, sometimes known as Campus, sometimes known as the Fania chicane. I've always also heard of it been known as Piff Paff as well. There's I think a number of corners here get called a number of different names.
Various things.
Yeah.
Speaking of Piff Paff Poe, he's just gone.
Ah.
We are now down to 50.
down. Yeah, indeed. So 15 drivers remain. As Turbo still staring at the back of the Audi R8, closing up a little bit there in the braking zone for the bus stop chicane, but isn't going to be close enough to challenge just yet. Just needs to get a couple of car lengths closer before he can really make a move, as Alan goes and loses the lead for the first time since the very early stages of the race. Obviously he's serving the mandatory pit stop that all the drivers are needing to make here in this race, and Pun in that multicoloured, drawn by a 4-year-old child Lamborghini, or at least that's what it looks like. I'm not entirely sure if that was the actual case, and I imagine it probably wasn't. It is a very cool liveried Lamborghini, but certainly very brightly coloured. And here we go, AS Turbo right staring into the backs, or was staring into the back internals of the Audi R8, but he's pulled out and getting the slingshot past, and Tony Clifton gets on the brakes just a little bit earlier and lets AS Turbo go through. Excuse me. And that demotes Tony Clifton now down into 3rd position. Nice clean move there by the Grasser Racing Lamborghini driver. Alan has rejoined back out onto the track in P5, just behind Britvards Budjats in that lemon coloured Mercedes AMG. I almost said Lamborghini, but I didn't.
It's so easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is so easy to accidentally say Lemon Lambo. There's a 3-way battle forming. It's Neela, 7th Phoenix, and Pun for 10th position. The McLaren's got himself a bit of breathing space from Pun, but he is very much chasing Neela. Oh, what a roar. And that's a problem for Neela. He's gone too deep into Lake Om. That's going to give Seventh Phoenix an opportunity to make the snarling, growling McLaren something a bit more of a problem for the Mercedes. And again, that's quite a wide line through Bruxelles for Nila. Now into No Name Corner. Here comes Pun as well. Do get involved in that battle. All I can hear from that camera is McLaren. There was no Merc or Lambo in that cacophony of sound whatsoever. And the McLaren got very squiggly coming into P1. But again, Punk just can't quite use the additional pace. He has a look on the inside of the final chicane, but no, does not commit to that particular move. What's going on up here? Oh, oops, that's Ritvar's getting slightly squiggly on the exit of the chicane. Alan has come past him for fourth position. Andrex has been demoted by Nade as well. The blue Mercedes now back up into sixth position. JK1 and Martin very close together also after that chicane, but Martin not looking to make that move easy on the white Mercedes. Can JK16 cut back underneath him? Nope, he's going to do the slipstream on the Kemmel Straight. I'd have thought the seventh Phoenix has lost that position to Pun, so the McLaren's made a mistake somewhere since we were last looking at that. And there's another one too deep into that chicane. Couldn't quite get the McLaren slowed down, and he's losing a bit of time off the back of Pun. Let's check in with JK16 on the back of WMDR Martin. Lamborghini resuming the racing line. JK16 having a look, but he's too far back this time around to make something work there, but trying to get the distraction on WMBR Martin, who holds his ground this time around. There's Debo in the second position. You see he now ahead of Tony Clifton. There is Alan. So this particular, well, this very big pack, we're pretty much seeing first right the way down to about fifth or sixth. Ritvar's trying to stay in the wheel tracks of Alan, but Alan's been a race, has led most of this race. That is a very hard thing to achieve. JK1 still right with WMDR Martin. They come through Puan. Is he going to try and make a move? Coming into the chicane? No, he knows. Whoa! I just said, I was just about to say he knows better than that, and suddenly he looked like he went for the dive. I think he was caught out by WMDR Martin braking a bit earlier than anticipated. Has Martin been through the pits yet? He hasn't, so no. Plenty of fuel on board. He's not in an urgent rush to, but he's just got a bright white, very determined Mercedes on his tail.
Yep, and I think Martin is trying to hold a more defensive line here, approaching Blanchimont. It's going to force JK to go around the outside. This is going to be too wide coming into Blanchimont. Will the two be able to do it? Oh, JK just about manages to hold on and gets the position and move done. Good, fair play, respectable driving by both of them. Martin just about gave enough room on the outside. Ooh, that's Andrex facing the wall there, as he was just waiting for the two of them to go through before reversing to rejoin onto the circuit. But fantastic stuff to see the two drivers going side by side through a corner which is near flat out. You can't do it near flat out when going side by side. You do have to lift a reasonable amount to actually make it work there, but good, fair, respectable stuff between the two to give each other just about enough racing room to make that happen. And that was quite a nice little spectacle moment, although my throat isn't really appreciating that now.
Yeah, that's oh, how on earth he held that was absolutely amazing, as Alan is forwards drifting the BMW through the exit of Lake Com, now down into Bruxelles once again. He wants to get on with it. He's got Nade really bearing in on him as well. Another 218 from the blue Mercedes, who is only 3 seconds behind this particular battle as well. Oh, JK16 and Martin have now swapped round. The Mercedes now, about 1.5 seconds ahead of the Lamborghini, so that move has happened. Alan is going to be very interested in getting this move done, because this man is closing in on them very, very quickly indeed. Now through the Fanny chicane, down to Stavilo. What is Alan going to be able to do? The Audi goes for a bit of a tighter line on the entrance, but that could jeopardize the exit and the run through Paul Frade all the way down to Blanchimont. At the moment, Alan can't quite capitalize on it. He's certainly needs to be getting on with it if he's got any chance of keeping Nade behind him.
The M6 does have pretty good straight line speed though, so could potentially be on with a move coming into the bus stop, and there was just a flash of lights there, just allowing, I believe, Tony Clifton to go through, although, sorry, Alan to go through, but Alan didn't take the opportunity there. That was a little bit unusual. I thought Tony Clifton gave the flash of the lights to say go on through the inside of the next corner, but it looks like that Alan's going to be able to do it this time round coming into La Source, and indeed Tony Clifton does let him go as Alan nips up the inside there, but that's going to allow Nade, there he is in the foreground, to close up on towards the back of these two. Alan does now have the clear air to push on despite the trading of position. That was a 2:19 on the previous lap, albeit a 2:19.9. So As Turbo is the next guy further up the road, as Ridvar Pugjats is in the pit lane to serve his mandatory pit stop. There he is. I'm pretty sure. Have we not seen him in the pit lane before?
No, I don't think.
No,
I don't think so.
I'm mixing it with someone else then.
It
might have been Storm.
I don't think we've seen him in, but he'll be coming out and beat Neela out. Shit, yes, he'll beat Neela out, so he'll be coming out in 11th position. Clifton still trying to keep up with Alan. There is Nade at the bottom of the shot. So it's still quite an uncomfortable position for Tony Clifton to be in, admittedly. But Zolty's still not been in the pits as yet, is our race leader. AS Turbo also yet to see the pit lane. And neither has Tony Clifton. But Alan has, so he will inherit the lead back again once those around him have pitted. Nade, as we know, has also been through the pit lane, so will be free to attack Alan when the opportunity arises. He's certainly had the pace advantage over the BMW to be able to put himself in that potential attacking slot. I mean, you're looking at his championship results. He's been an absolute dominant force in this league this season, so it's rather expected of him to be up there and fighting for the win. Is the Audi going to come in this time? No. No such luck for Nade, so Nade may well have to do this the hard way. All the lap times this time around, 21.4, 21.2, 18.8. So whilst Alan and Tony Clifton were sorting themselves out, of course, Nade didn't have anybody to scrap against. Let's see if Nade can get this one done up on the Camel Straight. The Audi wanted nothing to do with that whatsoever. Backed out that well before they got to Eau Rouge. Absolutely flat through and over Radeon. And that's the last thing that Alan needed in his mirror, was the ever-charging blue Merc. And Alan going over to the right-hand side unusually. He wasn't in a attacking or defensive position. We've lost another from this race. Who have we just lost? I'm not certain. That one. Now down to 14.
Not Strongest Avenger. Yeah, I'm just having a look through as well. As Turbo's still in there, Pun's still in there. I know we've lost Trip and Piff Paff Poe. Storm is still going. And so is Phoenix and Neela.
Neela's still with us, yeah.
Yeah, so... no, he's still going as well. I was going to say JK, but yeah. Well, Strongest Avenger, as we can see, is there at MP10. He's got Pun just up in front of him. What was lap times of the two of them? Pun with 2:25 on the previous lap, and Strongest Avenger in the mid 2:18. So no doubt he's got the damage repaired and is circulating round now at his full race pace. Do beg the question though, does he actually have enough fuel to actually see himself to the end of the race with 16 laps to go? Nade has got 72 litres on board. He's certainly safe. I don't think Strongest Avenger is going to be safe and is going to need to make another pit stop to actually take on fuel. Trip just pointed out it's Matt Cooley. It's the other driver who has
yes.
we have lost connection, and indeed He is correct there. Oh, Zolty.
Oh, Zolty's made a mistake.
Yes, he has. He's gone and lost the lead now to As Turbo, and now Alan's just behind. Suddenly, things at the front have closed up. All 4 drivers pretty close together.
Zolty's made a mistake at the chicane, I think, as he suddenly lost about 6 seconds. AS Turbo now leads the way, but he has got a hell of a pack running after him. There's Zolty then. So AS Turbo has not been through the pits, but the other 3 have. I think most people have been through the pits now. Let's see. Clifton hasn't. Jacob16 has. Martin hasn't. Andrex hasn't, so maybe only about half of the field have been through. Pun has. Son of Adventure has not. Ritvars has. Nita hasn't. Seven Phoenix has. And Storm has. So about half the field have been through the pit lane already. So it's going to be interesting fight then for where those that haven't been through the pits filter back out. But certainly these 3 have all been through the pit lane, and there you can see Zolty getting back on AS Turbo's case. He wants to try and get back up into that lead as quick as he can, and he's hoping that Alan is going to try and fight off Nade. So what have we got? 15 and a half laps to go. So still quite a distance to cover.
Yeah, Zolty's still yet to actually make his mandatory pit stop. So even if Alan does do an absolutely stellar job of fighting off Nade, he's still got another. Chloe pointed out 41 seconds in the pit lane earlier on in the live chat I saw and made a mental note of. So the main fight here between Alan and Nade is the actual one for the overall race lead. But obviously, as we've seen, anything can really happen when fighting with other drivers, and could potentially impact your race as Nade goes out a little bit wide there on the exit of Blanchimont. Nade taking it nice and Alan taking it nice and steady coming through the bus stop chicane there. As we can see, just trying to basically nail the apexes, nail the braking points, and all 3, well, the top 3 in the low to mid 2-minute 19s. And then Nade is the only driver in the 2:18, mid 2:18.5, as we can see, and he's actually closing up towards the back of Alan here as well. As there's a gap of 7 to 8 tenths of a second between the other 2 drivers, so things are getting quite spicy. Nade almost dropping the car there, going through a Rouge and Madion. Looked to be a little bit sideways as he's coming up over the crest, but he's done a pretty good job of holding on to that. That would have been pretty detrimental, and he's lifting and coasting coming into Lacombe.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm a little curious on why he just let go of the throttle quite a long way before the braking point as well. A bit of a curious one. I can't see that he'll need to fuel save unless he's got such an unbelievably rich mixture going on. I think it's just a case of he doesn't need to press on that badly and maybe risk making a mistake. At this point, he's got plenty of time and has the potential pace to do something about those ahead of him. That's Neela in the pits. So that's the first actual pit stop. Neela has been through the pits already with the damage you can see, but the actual strategic pit stop, that's the first time Neela has been in. So they're not getting any better, but still pressing on. Oh, now it looked like Alan got a little bit lively on the exit of the Fanny chicane. He's not got the slipstream off the back of Zolty to be able to help defend against that Mercedes behind. But what can Nade do? He's too far back this time to really make a move. So he's just there keeping the pressure on. He doesn't need to do anything at this stage to try and pressure for that win. He just needs to kind of let the play out, essentially. Ooh, wow. Very sideways coming into the chicane. Does manage to hold it quite well. And again, there is a definitive gap forming between these 2 pairs now. And Turbo is going to be under a lot of pressure. Zolty Well, both cars actually nailed the exit to La Source quite well. Coming down the hill. Again, you can see Nade's lap time just the same as everybody else. 2:18 actually for Zolty. Needs to get the exit of Radion right. Got a little bit lively as he came over the crest. Is AS Turbo going to defend that inside line? Doesn't look like he's interested in doing so. And out he jumps. Oh, look at that. Right behind them as well. Nade getting almost alongside Alan as well. And that is the lead now in the hands of Zolty. As the cameras continue looking the wrong way, the BMW still defending for all he's worth. Coming down into Bruxelles now. Manages to slow it down, but wow, Nade is just piling the pressure on now.
Yeah, he's certainly there. Well, certainly is. He's right there. And Matt Cooley actually made a pretty good suggestion that Nade may have been lifting to clear the slowdown warning prior on the previous lap, as he did run out wide coming out the top of Radion. But you see that Hans Zolty's now resumed the lead ahead of AS Turbo, making that move in Le Com, and is now starting to build a little bit of a buffer for himself already, as Alan is very much under pressure from Nade. Less than 0.3 of a second between the two. Here is Strongest Avenger battling away with Pun for 9th position, and yeah, no doubt Strongest Avenger is going to need to come in before the end of the race to make a pit stop and take on fuel on board, so that could be very detrimental to him getting 2nd position in the championship, as Nade is here right underneath the rear wing of the M6 in front, who's punching a very big hole in the air, and Nade is trying to take full advantage of that, but Alan is forcing him to go to the outside coming into the bus stop chicane. Alan braking just that fraction a little bit earlier than Nade did, but runs a little bit deeper as AS Turbo decides to cut across the runoff area there at the entrance to the pit lane to dive in to the pits to get his car serviced before the end of the race, as Nade is once again taking the usual racing line, as Alan is choosing to go for a more defensive and tighter option. This could potentially allow Nade to close up a little bit more on the exit, although he's going to be hard pressed to get up alongside as we're on the run down towards Eau Rouge. Now coming out up over the top, he's going to have the better line, the speed and momentum coming down the Kemmel Straight. The M6 is pretty quick in a straight line, but the AMG was getting a little bit of slipstream and is slipping on past here up into 3rd position. Alan is still trying to hold on though on the inside. It's going to be very close between the two of them coming into Le Com, but Nade gets the move done under braking, and around the outside he goes and gets himself now up into P2. So his next target up in front is Hans Zolty. He's managed to get himself 2.5 seconds just from those two drivers having that little bit of a battle there over the course of the last lap and a bit.
Nicely driven by both of them. That could easily have gone quite wrong, but I think Alan knew that one was done and had to give that one up. Finally made his now post pit stop up into that 2nd spot, and 2 seconds off the back of Zolty to challenge for the win with 12 and a bit laps remaining of this race. Strongest Avenger still fairly close to Pun. The Mercedes gaining about 0.3 on the Lambo last time around, so keeping the pressure up, trying to keep the pace up, etc, etc, but he's going to have to see the pit lane before too long. Only 16 and a bit litres left in, and Zolty's going to have to see the pit lane as well, as he's only got 15 litres in the tank. Nade won't, Alan won't, Tony Clifton will, JK16 won't, so he's likely to inherit the podium position. Martin will. Andrex will. Andrex is less than 10 litres in the tank. AS Turbo has been through the pits. Pun has been through. Strongest Avenger has not. Ridvars has. 7th Phoenix did quite a while ago. Probably won't need to come through again. Storm has. And Neela has. So, yeah, it looks like Nade is going to inherit the lead off of Zolty in the next. I think we're looking about 3-ish litres per lap, so certainly in the next 4 laps or so is when Zolty is going to have to bring that one in, along with those that have yet to see the pit lane. He's enjoying the lead whilst he's got it, but yeah, now Nade is clear of it. Look at the gap he's got to Alan already. 1.5 seconds in a lap. Absolutely phenomenal pace once again from Nade. So it's fairly inevitable unless he makes a very uncharacteristic mistake and throws it in the wall. Yeah, the win is there, is his for the taking.
Yep, it certainly is. Yeah, just to correct you, strongest Avenger has been in through the pit lane. We saw him went in twice earlier on after the picking up the damage.
Oh, he did. Yes, that's right. He didn't take on fuel at the time, did he? That's
no,
true.
Yeah. So he needs to do that, which yeah, I think is it's going to cost him P2. I think he probably realised that as soon as he had the contact with Nade up in Lecom back in the earlier part of the race, which really took him out the running, as Hans Ulti was trying to keep up with Nade through the pack, where Strongest Avenger managed to work through it a little bit quicker after starting a position ahead of Nade on the grid. But either way, they're still circulating round at the moment. I did also have a moment where I think you flicked to Alan and he showed up saying 0.0 litres of fuel in his car, and I had a slight worry that it didn't, but then it did update to suggest that he had just over 50, so we can see he's got 48 there at the moment. Nade is getting closer to Hans Ulti. Question on my mind is Hans Ulti actually going to fight for the position? He's actually going to sneak off in through the pit lane, takes a very tight, basic, well, kind of almost illegal approach into the pit lane, and clips the barrier on the way in.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the optimal way of doing it, but may well have just been kind of caught up at the moment with Nade right with him. So Nade then leads the way, 2.8 seconds between himself and Alan, and another nearly 2 seconds added in that lap alone, a 2:18.3 from the blue Mercedes. Tony Clifton then in the Audi up into third position. He is 11 seconds behind Alan and 7 ahead of JK16, and that is Andrex that's brought the Nissan in. This will be where everyone else is streaming. Oh, he cut that fine. 3 litres in the tank still for Andrex. That's a brave manoeuvre there as Zolti comes out of the pits. I think S Turbo is not far behind, but not close enough to challenge for a position. Strongest Avenger's chosen to continue. He's still got 10 litres in the tank, so still has time to see us literal fuel to burn. About 50 litres in the tank. It's probably maybe a bit more than he needs, unless the Nissan's a bit thirstier than the other GT3s. Everyone else is pretty well not, fairly spaced out, not anyone close to anybody else. So it's taken till now for the field to become this spread out, which is fairly impressive. We have only lost 3 drivers in this race. I was actually expecting a little bit higher attrition than that. So well done from our drivers. Yep,
indeed. Obviously, big thanks to them as well for obviously racing and sticking with it throughout the duration of the season. It's been 10 rounds that the guys have been battling over various championship positions for. We even had a good break as well. Our last race that we did was on the 18th of December. Obviously, we had the Christmas period, a couple of weeks break for that, but it's good to be back here for the final round, and also our first GT3 race on Project Cars 2 here at AOR of the new year and the new decade. Storm is just parked it there in the pit stall, picking up Strongest Avenger now, who's closed back up onto the rear of Pun once again. Still fairly close, but with 8 litres of fuel remaining, he's either going to be coming in on this lap or the next, I would have thought.
If he doesn't, he'll be parking it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, look at the lap time from Nade.
2:18 flat, near enough. Bar 1/1000th of a second. Very serious and impressive lap time that he's been putting in throughout the entirety of the season, really. As you mentioned earlier, he's had a very, very strong, dominant performance. His worst position that he's finished was second, and he finished in that position 3 times. All the other races that he's taken here. Oh no, and it goes plumb into the wall. That's going to be big damage to the front of his Lamborghini. There's no engine up there, but there certainly is bodywork, aero pieces, and suspension as well. So, yeah, excuse me, hopefully Pun hasn't suffered too much damage from that, but you can certainly see that the front bumper has been dislodged, and that has also gifted Strongest Avenger the 8th position.
Yeah, he did a bit of a Giovinazzi there, went wide on the last corner and dropped it into the opposite wall, as Ridfar's Pujats now keeping Andrex company for what is currently 10th position. Still some shuffling of positions to do. How is Pun doing? Well, he's been through the pits, so he's likely to limp that one to the end. The damage doesn't look particularly severe. The car doesn't look like it wants to crab around everywhere, so I suspect he's going to limp that one home. Where's Nade? There he is. He's gone past the back marker, which is Neela. As Neela kicks up some dust, as they do. What lap time does he get on the board this time, I wonder? Into the chicane.
It's deep.
Little deep, but seems quite content. It doesn't seem to matter what he does. He's fairly untouchable in every respect, and this time it is a 2:18.5, which is half a second off his best, but still pretty damn quick.
Yep, obviously playing with that clear air that he now has. I imagine he would have lost a little bit of time passing and lapping Nyla as well. Alan, we see here in the M6, second place, 6 seconds off the back of the race lead, but it's got a nice healthy gap of 13 odd seconds there or thereabouts to Tony Clifton, who is here in 3rd position, the final step of the podium on the Audi, but do believe that he doesn't have the fuel to make it to the end of the race, as Martin is into the pit lane to get his car topped up with fuel, as it's just ticked under 4 litres remaining. JK now comes through, takes 4th position. He's got enough fuel to go to the end, as we saw him in the pit lane earlier on, and he is 7.5 to 8 seconds off the back of Tony Clifton, but 14.5 seconds ahead of this man, Hun Zolti, who's currently there in P5. Here is Strongest Avenger now into the pit lane to make what will hopefully be his final stop of the race, to take on the fuel that he needs to see him to the end of the race. And it looks like WMDR Martin is back out the pit lane already, as Asturbo is lapping Stormy and T-Dale, although it does go a little bit deep going into the chicane. There is Martin, having been through the pits, now 40 litres on board. He is resumed back out in P7, ahead of Pun, who is I think, as you're quite rightly pointing out, just trying to make it to the end more than anything. Obviously he's picked up the position from Strongest Avenger, who's been into the pits, as Ritvar Putchats is there, and Andrex is slowed and peeled off to the side of the track. I wonder if
he's had a technical trouble. He's not giving any kind of inputs whatsoever.
He may have just jumped from the rig to potentially sort of family issue. I don't know. I know he's got a couple of kids. He may have just pulled off to one side, out the way from everyone, just to tend to a matter there. As well, he hasn't left the session yet, so that's what I'm going to assume. I don't. Oh,
he's out. Yeah,
he's out. Okay, he may have disconnected then. That's a shame.
A great shame indeed. Oh, Tony Clifton.
That's a very dry fuel tank on you, sir. As Seven Phoenix has just come out of the pits. Well, he must have been cutting that very fine as well, but he had just over a litre remaining. Did Tony then, so nicely done. That's going to give 4th position to Zolti. It was a pretty short stop for Tony Clifton then, who's going to bring the Audi back out on track. Who's going to come out? It's Turbo or Clifton? Let's see.
There's Turbo.
Yeah, it's Turbo's got that one, doesn't he? Here comes Clifton, WMDR Martin in there. No, he's back at the chicane. So out comes Tony Clifton then in 6th position. Nade now leading by 8 seconds. Now we're seeing the 17s come on the board. 2:17.9 for the blue Mercedes. He's not letting up in the slightest. 8 seconds back is Alan, JK16. Further 22 seconds back. So now the field spread is getting pretty far and wide, but it's taken to the closing stages or the final quarter of the race for that to realistically occur. Oh, nicely done, sir. If he's got no one to race, kick out the tail and have a bit of fun whilst you're out there. Don't blame you at all. No, Zolty. 8 seconds to close down before he can start challenging 9 seconds. I'm looking at that the wrong way around. He's 8 seconds ahead of AS Turbo. He's got about 9.3 to challenge JK16, but with the amount of laps left, we've lost another. Now down to 12. Who did we just lose? I don't know.
Andrex.
Andrex, no, he pulled off earlier. Who did we lose? No, I won't identify who it is we've lost.
Strongest Avenger, I think.
Yes, yep. Well spotted.
That's a shame. Because obviously he was battling with this man here for P2 in the championship. And with Strongest Avenger now retiring or leaving the session, it's going to give it to Hans Zolty. And Andrex also saying that his engine popped with a tiny tap of the wall, which must have been from the spin that he had earlier on, and probably the temperatures of the radiator just creeping up continuously until got to a point where the engine got to 100 and V6 saying no.
I think Pun is closing in on WMDR Martin. And there's only 3 seconds there.
It's fairly close between the two. We know that Martin was in the pits on the previous lap, so the lap times aren't representative or useful.
We'll see what they are this time around.
Yeah. Well, even this... actually, no, this time it'll be fine.
So, WMDR Martin gets a 222. Punny's carrying that damage, though, so, yeah, 224. But Ritvars, however, doesn't have that same issue, so he's gaining pretty quickly on Pun. At that pace difference between himself and WMDR Martin, he might be able to close him in, but will need either Martin to slow down a bit or needs to find a few more tenths every single lap for the remaining 7 to close in on WMDR Martin. And it also depends on how much of a fight Pun decides to put up. But Rivars may well have a scrap, and that's not a useful camera at all. That's as he pointed to Andrex, weirdly, who's left the session. Thanks, cameraman.
I guess he misses him that much. There's your race leader out at the head of the field. Only 500ths of a second off his fastest lap as he brings the Mercedes down to a nice speed to get through the first hairpin there.
He loves to slide the car as well. It's not he likes an oversteery car. I've been sort of observing him for a few laps when we have been looking at him, and he always seems to be sliding the car. He's making that oversteer work brilliantly well. Yeah,
there's Andrex again. That wasn't not the sentence that I was going to be saying. It's, it's something that a lot of the faster guys do. It's something with Project Cars too. There's an awful lot of longitudinal grip. So there's a lot of grip in the straight line, which is why a lot of the guys tend to run without traction control, because they don't feel they necessarily need it, and if they can get the car right on its slip angle and hold it there, that's where the lap time and the speed really comes from. So it's kind of probably what we're seeing Nade doing quite nicely. Case in point, we do also see a little bit of slight misinterpolation with the cars as well here in the spectator and director and broadcaster cams, where it looks like they're rotating and it looks like they're counter steering quite a lot, and I think it's just slight gaps in code with the the interpolation of the cars, kind of trying to fill it in, and the wheels pointing in slightly unusual directions at times. But even still, the guys do like to basically try and get the car right up onto the limits of its slip angle and get through the corners that way.
That makes sense. Here comes Ritvars, and there you go. That really does highlight the pace that Pun has lost. Again, another 224. Oh, for goodness sake. I love Andrex too, but come on. Pointing at trees is not really what we're here for. Ritvars getting another 221 on the board, but so was WMDR Martin. So that gap is, as you can see now, 5.6 or thereabouts between himself and Martin. Martin just needs to kind of carry on going with the remaining, we've got 5 and a bit laps to go here at Spa Francorchamps.
Yeah.
So, that's Ritvars is going to need a mistake on Martin's case to be able to close that in. Let's have a quick look at the penalties. 3 for Alan, 8 now for JK16. That's going to lose him the podium, I think. No, because Zolty's got 4. So not yet. But if he carries on like that, and his podium position may still be up for question. And Zolty gained a full second last time around. Slightly more than that, 1.5 seconds on JK16. So his podium position may not be entirely secure. So 2 for AS Turbo, 4 for Martin, 4 for Pun, and 2 for Neela. So that's going to be an interesting one between Zolty and that's I've forgotten who's in the 7th Phoenix, isn't it? Definitely making sure he was getting out of the way. Very nicely done. So Zolty needs to close that gap. For goodness sake, needs to close that gap as it stands at the moment to 4 seconds, and he gained 1.5 seconds last time around. He's got the time just about to manage that. So JK16 is not a guaranteed podium city yet.
Not yet, no, but could potentially just hold on, as you're saying. And just also reading the live stream chat as well. Chloe saying there's been a few podiums of the M6. There's been a couple. Chloe's been on the podium twice, and Alan is currently on course to be on the podium as well, to make it 3 podiums for the M6. Trying to remember
Chloe.
what podiums it's had previously. I know I've had a 2nd position.
Chloe absolutely, really took the field to town last week at Algarve, didn't she?
Yeah, she did, and came away with a race win. I think the first win for the M6 in the GT3, official league, should I say here. I'm not entirely sure about the social races. But, Alan's doing a pretty good job there. Nade is still circulating around in the 217s, and I believe that may have been the fastest lap of the race.
It was indeed.
2:17.795. There is JK. That's
I'm keeping an eye on the lap time. Again, it's the gap between himself and Zolty. Also, need to keep an eye on the penalty count as well, on how that's going to sit. So, a 220.1 for JK. And what does Zolty manage to do? 19.6, so 0.5 seconds that time around, and still he needs to gain another 3 seconds. He's not going to manage it at that much pace difference, but at this late stage in the game, mistakes, the fatigue, what have you, are certainly possible. So it's not impossible for Zolty to close that one down. Of course, we don't know what damage any of these guys are carrying as far as engine damage is concerned. Everybody should be good on fuel, I'd have thought. No one's really cut fine. Still looking at the trees where magically Andrex's car has ended up. Looks like, I think everyone, I'm just going through the fuel amount. I don't think anybody is pushing the fuel limit that hard. No one is rolling the dice as far as the fuel tank is concerned. So everybody can just qualify lap their cars now until the close, until this man completes another 3 and a bit laps for the checkered flag to fall. So Yeah, it's now at that pace. Zolty is going to need a mistake from JK or more penalties from JK to close the gap down, but certainly not impossible.
Nope, it's not over until the fat lady sings, as they say, and she has not sung as of yet. She's still got 3 and a bit laps to go. The track is looking a little bit more worse for wear. As I was saying earlier on, there's quite a bit of marble and dirt build-up around the circuit, and it seems to be getting worse. Either that or I'm just noticing it. But here's a nice onboard shot with Nade as we come down through a Rouge, now into Radion, up over the top, over the hill.
You see how he's having to fight to keep the thing settled as he's got his foot planted and coming over Radion. The car just wants to go in every direction other than where you want it to go.
Yeah, but he's done a very good job of holding on to it. Now he's just threading his way through the chicane, finding a little bit of oversteer through both sections there. It's looking very nice and tidy and nice and smooth. Now down into Bruxelles, hairpin, taking a nice sweeping line through that corner now into the corner with no name. It's quite difficult with the curb on the inside there. There's a few notches on a number of the curbs on the inside, which if you clip those, does unsettle the car, and also the actual makeup of the curb as well. It's kind of a little bit more of a dippy sort of trench rather than a raise, like most curbs tend to be. And that can kind of suck you in and kind of pull you around a little bit in the slightly more unusual fashion. I've oversteered that coming through and out the exit of campus, but does a nice job of holding on to it. Nice and smooth through Stavilo and Paul Frey. Out the exit of that, and now just accelerating up the slight climb on the way towards Blanchimont. It's one of the great things about Spa Francorchamps is the almost constant change in undulations. Some places pretty difficult to actually see the rise and falls, but they certainly are there, and you certainly do feel it when you walk around the track as well. A little bit deep coming into the bus stop chicane, but it's a nice drive out through the exit using that exit curb and then across the line to begin the penultimate lap of the race. And it's again another 2:17, almost a 2:19 there, but it was a 2:17.9.
Still the same penalty between these two, and the gap is right there.
Ooh.
Now, of course, that will vary with braking zones, but I think JK has made a mistake because that was about 7 seconds last time we looked at it, and like we say, there's the penalty count once again. It's still 8 seconds to JK and 4 to Zolty. So unless Zolty makes a mistake, the JK may well have just handed that podium to Zolty, but it is going to be so close. You should be able to see him. There he is.
Yep.
He was way down the road before, so 2:21 from JK and the 2:18.7. So there you go, a huge chunk, 3 seconds taken out of that particular gap. So I think JK's probably made only a fairly small mistake, but Zolty has absolutely pinned his right foot and is charging for that podium spot.
Yep. Coming up through Radion. Over the top, you'll be able to see the Mercedes driver up in front of him. Gap about 3.5, 4 seconds there. You can see just the tail lights up in the distance. They'll flash up a brighter red as JK is on the brakes coming into the chicane there. Zolty following him on through, trying to hold on to the car, navigate his way between the curbs through the corners. JK still circulating around 21.5 seconds to Alan up in front in second place. Despite the two of these guys fairly close in the championship, if they are to finish in the positions as they stand now, and JK does hold on to that final podium position, it won't be enough to jump Zolty in the championship standings, but it may be. Will it be enough to jump JK? 14 points difference between the two. It's going to be fairly close there. entirely depends on whether or not Hanzolti has done enough to leapfrog JK through the penalties. At the moment it looks like he has, as the gap is now 2.5 to 3 seconds. So he's within that 4-second window that King Kodiak has been talking about. It's going to be very, very tight between those two. And we could potentially see Hanzolti inherit that final podium spot as Nade is onto the final lap of the race.
And still getting the 217s on the board. And we still look at Alex, the beautiful Scotsman. And Storm is close to 7th Phoenix. So after all this time, and a couple of laps down, Storm has actually caught the back of the McLaren. So he's now got someone to have a chat to. But yeah, that gap between JK and Zolti has gone down enough. There you go, another 220.3 and a 218.9, another 1.5 seconds there enough gone between the two. So Zolti just needs to hold station. Another check of the penalties. Alan's gained another one, I think, but still 8 and 4 between JK16 and Hanzolti. So Alan is 21 seconds down the road. He's not likely to gain enough penalties to lose that spot. You can see just 4 cars at this point on the lead lap. If you look at the map, the blue dots are a lap down from the car we're looking at, which is of course our leader. Nazy comes in through Stavilo down to Paul Frey for the final time in this race, for the final time this season. It's been an absolute masterclass from the blue Mercedes. He's going to have 25 plus seconds between himself and the M6 of Alan through Blanchimont for the final time. And what a great way for him to see his championship season out. Oh, there's Pun at the bottom of the shot.
Yeah, Pun may potentially just be slowing to let Nade on through and pass him. Yeah, pass him one last time. Nade getting the rear end of the car out as he comes across the line for the final race here in season 14. There he goes, wiggling his way. Pun comes home just behind him, not in second position though, because it is this man here, Alan, in the BMW M6, who will be taking that bar. Any absolutely disasters here coming into the bus stop chicane, nailing the braking point, using the curb on the outside quite nicely to just try and open up the run through the final chicane as he comes through and across the line to take a very well-deserved second position. He fought hard for that one, starting near the front of the field. JK currently in P3, and it's near, right on the edge of 4 seconds between the two. Hanzolti's got 5 seconds. This could be enough. This could be enough for JK to hold on to that final podium spot. Entirely depends on the run between the two of them as they're coming through the bus stop. JK's run looked to be pretty good. He goes across the line now. Now we look to Hanzolti. Is he done enough through the final chicane to gain the position to get himself up into third? And he doesn't. He's still there in fourth in the final results. JK holds on to that final podium spot. What a finish there between those two. It wasn't quite as physically close as we would have liked on track, but it was certainly there in terms of a nice juicy gap battle. As Turbo we saw come across the line for oh dear, I don't think that was quite the intended way for that to finish, but As Turbo gets 5th. Tony Clifton now comes across the line to pick up 6th position, and excuse me, 7th Phoenix and Storm having a little bit of an altercation there in the final corners. Here is WMDR Martin, who is just ahead of Ritvar's Pudjats by about 4.5 seconds or so. I believe that Martin might just about hold on to that position. He did have a time penalty to his name, whereas Ritvar's Pudjats did not. And we shall see in just a moment's time. Indeed, Martin does hold on to that 7th position. So, excuse me. From the top then, Nade coming away with the race win here in round 10. Alan in 2nd position, ACR JK16 in P3, just edging out Hanzolti there for that final spot on the podium. Obviously Hanzolti in 4th, As Turbo 5th, Tony Clifton in 6th, WMDR Martin in 7th place, Ritvar Pudjats in 8th position. Pun picks up 9th place. In 10th is Nyla. My game is struggling here, and in fact, actually, it struggled so much that my game has crashed.
Storm was 11th and 7th Phoenix was classed as 12th, despite their bizarre incident at the end there. And also, Nina and Storm had indeed been through the pits twice, and that is the last of our finishes.
Thank you very much for the confirmation there of results. But that was quite an exciting finish, and hopefully that hasn't destroyed my voice too much. And apologies for the slight coughing, as I mentioned earlier on in the start of stream. I have been a little bit ill, and it's now just randomly turned into a cough now. But hopefully we might get some driver interviews here to wrap up season 14. We shall see in just a moment as to whether anyone will appear in the ready for interview room. If not, we'll tidy things up and call it an evening here for season 14. But man, what a finish that was at the end there.
Wasn't it just? Several people right down to the line with penalties and what have you, and oddly McLarens and Mercedes facing the wrong way on the start finish line. It was a bit of a strange finish, but it was a great way to see the season out, wasn't it?
Yeah, almost definitely. Provided a nice little bit of excitement there at the end. Very well worked out as well with that one with the battles and picking up on that, as I hadn't really noticed it at that point with the penalties, but it got very, very close. Very tense and very interesting. I'll give it another 5 to 10 seconds or so. No one's popped up in the ready for interview room as of yet. Obviously, before we get into... Oh, there we go. Just as I say that, WMDR Martin has popped in. So is Turbo as well. So we'll get the first of our interviewees in. WMDR Martin, how was that race for you? It looked to be very close at the end with Ritvar's Pujats with the penalty, but you just about managed to hold off for what I believe was P7?
Yeah, P7, but for at least the last 10 laps I had to go full beans on the car because he was faster than me for sure. And luckily the handling in the second half of the race was better than in the first half, because in the first half, I'm not sure if y'all saw that on the camera, but I had a massive spin, also slammed into the wall at like 220 kilometers an hour and got away with no damage, so that was a lucky.
I can't quite remember if we did see that or not. I don't think we did.
No, I don't think we saw that one, I'm afraid.
I saw neither of them.
Yeah, sadly not.
But yeah, so I was really struggling in the opening stages of the race. Then maybe after about 20 laps, the tires actually started feeling pretty decent. And then I had some battles with, I think, JK, and I think Nate got past me fairly easy.
Very nice. Just having a look at your current championship standings and where you may end up being after that race. I think you may potentially end up finishing 7th overall. Potentially popping yourself ahead of BMW Empower. I can't quite remember the number of points that you get for 7th position, but obviously it's a double points race. And you were
I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're 7 points off the back of Pantera, who didn't race today, and Empower hasn't raced since round 3, and he was 7 points ahead of Pantera, so 14 points ahead. I think you got P7 in the end.
Nice, I'll take it.
Excellent. Are you any plans for a potential return in season 15? If there is a season 15, I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, if there is, I'll be back with my pad.
Excellent. Is there any plans for a potential wheel or hop to a wheel in the future, or are you planning on just sticking with the pad?
Well, I am thinking of buying iRacing and trying the wheel on that game, and then maybe porting that over to this game if it lasts long.
Interesting. Well, good to see that you have been utilising the pad here in this season. You've been putting in some pretty impressive results and some pretty good lap times considering. But yeah, congratulations on what I believe is P7. It's just provisional. Don't quite want to make it 100% official yet because my math is absolutely horrendous. But yeah, hopefully we shall see you back in season 15.
Yeah, See ya.
All right. Thanks very much, Martin. Take care. So that was Martin that we just talked to. We'll get the second person who hopped into the ready for interview room, and that was As Turbo. Martin's come and move back in once again. Sorry, Martin, I'll move you.
No,
I'll move
nobody
back
moved
out.
me out.
You accidentally moved me out.
Oh, apologies. Sorry.
There
Right,
you
there we go. That's the right person. As Turbo, how was that race for you?
Hello. Well, it was a very tough race. At the start of the race, I was very careful to don't have any problem with the rest of the field, and I was at the back of the pack. But I was progressing step by step. My car was very slow at the straight, and I have to pass everybody in the corners, and that was a difficult race for that reason.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out where you. Well, you finished fifth position in the race. I'm just trying to figure where that leaves you in terms of the overall standings. You're 26 points behind Hans Zolti. I think you might be very close to Strongest Avenger as
Yeah,
well.
but GK, I suppose that overtake me by the double points of this race,
Ah, yeah.
because he was just behind me, and probably he passed me.
Yeah, he's 14 points behind you in the standings going into the round, and yeah, finished in third position. So it'll be very close between you two as well. But how, looking at the season as a whole, how was that for you?
Well, the first three races was terrible. I have many incidents. The performance was not good. But after the fourth race, I feel better with the car, and I feel that I can progress. My target was being in the first 10, and finally I finished 6th or 7th, and that's a very good result for me.
Yeah, I think it was P6 that you got in round 5. You looking forward to a potential season 15? You looking to return?
Probably yes. Don't know if it will be also with GT3 cars. I don't like especially, but let's see.
Excellent. Well, hopefully, if we do a season 15, we'll see you back for that. But until then, thanks very much, and we shall catch you sometime soon.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, bye. Alright, let's get in our next driver, Pun. We saw you have a relatively good race to start off with, and then things took a very dramatic turn for the worse. Talk us through what happened there with that crash.
I can talk if I stop biting myself right now. The thing is, everything was going well. I had a really good pace. I think I was doing low 220, and I was catching everyone. And I saw that Martin was, I think, the car just in front of me didn't do his pit stop yet. And I was catching, and I was pretty sure I would catch him. And then I lost control of the car. I mean, even from the beginning, I mean, from the practice session, I think I changed something at the last minute before starting the race, and the tires were too cold, and I had awful pace at the beginning. But when we were moving forward on the race, the temps were getting higher, and I got my tire temperature again, and I was having good pace. Overall, I think I this last race summarized my my season on AOR. When I'm doing too good, I end up crashing myself. That's me.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. But I know you do pick up a position or two in the overall championship standing, so you're finishing up in the top 10 overall.
Oh my god, are you serious right now?
Yeah, the Wolf obviously not racing here today. You were on equal points with him. Um, you were 6 points behind Martin, who is going to stay ahead of you. But you may even be close to Pantera as well. So you're either in ninth, or well, yeah, ninth or 10th position in the overall
Amazing.
standings.
I'm more than happy with that result. As I said earlier on the previous interviews, this is my first league ever. On this car, I don't have that many hours, and if I could achieve, if the way I have achieved top 10 in the elite tier, I think it's the best thing I can hope for, and yeah, and it happened. So I'm really glad with it.
Excellent. Well, hopefully onwards and upwards. Are you planning a return for season 15?
Before season 15 on the GT3, I think I'm gonna do the Clio Cup, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you can improve and even get an even better result for the next season as well. But obviously, congratulations on the top 10, and thank you very much for joining in with the races.
Thank you guys, and I want to thank you, Yorkie and King, for your amazing interviews, guys. You're the best.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for being a part of them.
GG, bye bye.
Cheers, bye. And we'll get our last driver here ready for the interview room. It's Rip Vars. How was that race for you in the end? We saw you driving around in that lemon-coloured Mercedes AMG, and you ended up in P8. How was it from your side? Not hearing anything coming through. I am hearing, or shall I say, seeing the green icon coming up. King, are you still there? Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't hear it.
Yep, I can't hear Rip Fuzz either.
No, basically, it sounds like a television on in the opposite room. So no, we can hear that you're transmitting something, but we can't really hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. You got the correct mic settings? I see he's just fiddling around with stuff, trying to see if it works out. Give it a go now. Still nothing, unfortunately. Try another mic input. Hopefully we can get something for the end here. As I don't think I've interviewed Brit Vaz before, so I'm hoping that we can get a chat in with him. Still, unfortunately, nothing.
Sadly, no.
Yep, still unfortunately nothing. Sorry, Ritvaz. I think we'll have to wrap it up there. I'll leave you in the channel just in case you do manage to sort out your mic and you suddenly jump into life, and we'll grab a chat with you. But otherwise, I think unfortunately we're going to have to wrap it up there for season 14. Obviously, I want to say a big thank you to you, King Kodiak, for coming in and kind of helping save my voice here a little bit in this final race, and also in the previous race as well, back in round 9 at Algarve.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's always nice for me to touch base with the Project CARS side of things. Is where my commentary career starts.
Yes, indeed, and I want to say a big thank you to all the drivers who have been competing here in season 14. Obviously, without them, we'll have nothing entertaining to talk about. Unfortunately, Ritfars are still not hearing anything from you either, which is a bit unusual. Next thank you wants to go to all those who have supported the AOR YouTube channel in one form or another, whether it's interacting on Twitter, whether watching the live streams, interacting here in the live chat, giving the videos and the live streams a thumbs up, any comments or questions or anything else like that. Of course, all the interaction helps grow the publicity of AOR, and we very much appreciate that. And so thank you for coming in and tuning in and putting up with my voice, and also King Kodiak's in the last 2 rounds. And ooh,
Any noise?
I'm hearing something, but you're extremely quiet.
Give me a second.
I shall give you a second. I'm just about hearing Ritvar's voice, but it was very, very distant, very faint. In the meantime, though, I want to say my next thank you goes to all the coordinators here at AOR that make the leagues happen, because obviously without them there would be no league. They sacrifice an awful lot of time, of their own spare time, shall I say, behind the scenes to get the leagues up and running, helping with stewards' inquiries, trying to keep the leagues as clean and as safe and running as smoothly and as effectively as they possibly can. So a big, big thank you to all them, and hopefully Ritvar, you're a little bit louder. Yes, you are a little bit louder. You sound good. How are you?
Well, I'm happy you can hear me.
Yes, finally get an interview with you here right at the end. Brilliant. How was that race for you in the end, Ritvar?
Let's start at the start, because I was really lucky to start first. I didn't expect that at all. And since I managed to keep quick guys for a bit behind me, I was really hopeful. But at the very end, I was right at my place. I was trying to get that gap down to 3.5 seconds, pushed so much and made an error. And
it's always the way.
Yeah, even still, 8th position in the end was a fairly solid result. You did unfortunately miss out on a number of races throughout the season. Are you potentially looking for a stronger return back in season 15?
let's hope I can participate in that, because summer is my busiest time working wise. Maybe see next one.
Hopefully we can get you back in one of them. Is there any particular car that you kind of got your eye on? You going to stick with the Mercedes AMG, or are you looking to hop to something else?
Well, I realized one thing. Car is not making me quick, so I need to improve my driving, so might as well take something that I like.
Interesting. Anything in particular in mind?
I drove Ferrari, maybe McLaren, who knows?
Okay, interesting. I may have to keep an eye out for you in a Ferrari or McLaren in the future then. Thank you very much for managing to get your mic sorted in the end. It was good to get a final chat in with you. And obviously congratulations on 8th place here in this race, but hopefully we'll catch you maybe sometime next season, if not hopefully the following season in season 16.
Thank you for an interview, and thank you for the commenting all the races.
Not a problem. I'll catch you later. Take care, bye. Right, well that is going to be it for season 14. I think we got pretty much everybody covered. We've done you, we've done the drivers, we've done all those who have interacted and tuned in with the live chats and watched us here at AOR on the YouTube channel. We've thanked the coordinators as well. We've obviously got to say congratulations to ACR Nade on the overall championship, to Hans Zolti for getting, I believe, second position, or I'm pretty sure second position in the championship standings. The big question that follows then is Strongest Avenger in third position, or was it Asturbo or JK? It's very close between all the drivers, so I'm not 100% sure, and as I mentioned, my math is terrible and I don't really want to make assumptions right here. But otherwise, that is going to be it. Excuse me. That is going to be it here for season 14. Hopefully, in a month or so time, I believe Season 15 is due to start. In the meantime, hit the subscribe button here at AOR, and also if you hit that bell notification as well, you will be notified each time that we go live with all the various live streams that we do here on the AOR YouTube channel. That includes iRacing, F1 2019, ACC, Project Cars 2, Dirt Rally, I believe there's GT Sport, I believe there's Forza, there's all sorts of racing games and sims that we play here and cover on AOR, so make sure you don't miss out on any of that content, and hopefully we'll catch you back in roughly a month or so's time, maybe slightly longer, for season 15, and hopefully I should be commentating for that as well. But otherwise, from everyone here at AOR, I want to say a very, very big thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, I should catch you in the next season. But until then, have fun, stay safe, and take care.